People who are between life and death often experience unusual states. As a rule, such experiences occur in those who have experienced clinical death or a heart attack. They are associated with the sensation of flying, hovering, or other specific memories. Greetings, friends. It just so happens that the videos on life after death have received the most of your support. However, the difficulty of submitting such information lies in the fact that there is no reliable information, and there will not be. We may or may not believe in life after death, build the most fantastic theories, or study ancient writings, but the fact remains that there is not a single person who could truly die. Go so far that there is no way back, cross the gates from the world of the living to the world of the dead, and then return back. There are simply no such people. No one in our world knows 100% how the other world really works. But the irresistible desire to look beyond the edge haunts us, especially on those days when we lose loved ones. Perhaps this is due to the premonition that our earthly life is just a preparation for something more. Today we will talk about the premonition of death, the immediate moment of transition, and of course, consider the testimonies of people who have returned from the dead. These people did not go far into another world, they only touched the unknown. But believe me, even what they were able to learn can turn our consciousness around. This time, we will not only quote the opinion of believers about the afterlife, but we will also rely on the explanations of skeptical scientists. Scientists still have not come to a consensus on the existence of a near-death state. However, they do not deny the possibility of such unusual experiences. As for the reason for these experiences, there are no opinions either. One of the most common points of view is a violation of the oxygen supply to brain tissues. This is what is supposed to be the cause of an acute reaction of the auditory and visual receptors when a person experiences certain effects in the form of sounds and flashes of light. Many consider this to be a near-death state. However, there are other hypotheses. For example, that unusual sensations on the eve of near death can be caused by a sharp surge of electrical activity in the brain. This hypothesis was confirmed by experiments of American scientists who instrumentally recorded a strong surge in neurophysiological brain activity in mice. Experts are sure that the same thing happens to people. This is even documented in patients after cardiac arrest. At the moment when their heart stopped, the brain was working more actively than during life. This unusual activity leads to an increase in dopamine and serotonin levels, followed by visual hallucinations. In such patients, the level of carbon dioxide in the blood also increases, which can cause spikes in the level of exogenous or endogenous psychoactive substances. These processes can explain unusual states. Mystical explanations of such experiences are more understandable. Proponents of this theory claim that the line between life and death prepares a person for the transition to another world. Everyone has their own feelings at this moment, depending on their life experience. One scientific journal cited an example of one of the latest studies of the Center for Hospice and Palliative Care in the American city of Buffalo. It showed that when people leave their lives, they really see a bright light and feel at peace. Also, dying people can have vivid and realistic dreams in which they meet with dead and living relatives, go on trips, and recall pleasant moments from their lives. These dreams appear about 10 weeks before death, but scientists are still unable to explain their cause. Experts from Germany, Norway, and Denmark have found that every 10th person experiences a near-death experience. The vast majority of dying respondents had a distorted perception of time, and more than 2/3 had greatly aggravated feelings and increased mental activity. A number of people who faced the breath of death told scientists about angelic singing and the light at the end of the tunnel. Among the dying, about 87% had a distorted perception of time. More than 50% reported leaving their own body. About 2/3 out of a tenth of the respondents reported an increase in the speed of thinking and a strong aggravation of feelings. There are also reports of auditory hallucinations and a demon sitting on the chest during sleep paralysis. Some respondents noted that they felt someone else's presence before going to bed or saw a light at the end of the tunnel. In addition, stories about angelic singing and incredible peace are popular. Scientists note that near-death experiences are common to people who have faced real danger, recently survived a car accident, and those who were not in immediate danger. People's experience of this kind supports the theory that a person does not disappear when they finish their earthly journey. Tina Hines, an American from Phoenix, suffered a heart attack and her heart stopped on the way to the hospital. She was dead for almost 30 minutes. According to her, everything was real in the other world and the colors were very bright. The woman suggested that she saw a figure similar to Jesus in front of a black gate, from which a golden light emanated. Despite frequent reports of afterlife experiences during clinical death, scientists continue to debate the issue of life after death. In April 2019, a group of astrophysicists from the Polytechnic Institute of California stated that the existence of an afterlife could be confirmed by quantum tests. According to scientist Sean Carroll, such experiments could certainly detect some spirit particles. The expert's report says that similar studies have already been conducted, but scientists have not found traces of the spirit. Carroll added that the group of scientists refers to the theory of the quantum field, which assumes the existence of an individual field for all particles. According to physicists, life after death can exist only when a person's consciousness is separated from the physical body. However, the human brain consists of atoms that are unable to store information after death. Carroll urged people to stop believing in an afterlife. Despite this, the light at the end of the tunnel continues to be a popular representation of how we experience the transition to another world. According to BBC correspondent Rachel Newer, the experiences of people who have experienced clinical death are much more diverse. In 2011, a 57-year-old social worker from England, let's just call him Mr., was taken to Southampton Central Hospital after fainting at work. While the doctors were trying to insert a catheter into the patient, his heart stopped. Without oxygen, the brain instantly stopped functioning. The gentleman died, but later remembered what happened next. When the doctors used an automated external defibrillator to activate cardiac activity with an electric shock, the gentleman heard a mechanical voice repeat the discharge twice. Between these two commands, he opened his eyes and saw a strange woman in the corner near the ceiling. She seemed familiar to him, and he felt trusted, even though he didn't know who she was. The next second, he was upstairs, looking down at himself, a nurse, and a bald man. Researchers believe that it is quite possible to collect objective scientific data on potential last moments of life. Over the course of 4 years, they analyzed more than 2,000 patients who had experienced cardiac arrest, that is, official clinical death. Of this group of patients, doctors were able to bring 16% back to life. Dr. Sam Parnia and his colleagues interviewed a third of these patients. Our goal is to understand, first of all, what people feel at the time of death, says Dr. Sam, and then to prove that what patients say they see and hear at the moment of death is indeed reality. The gentleman was not the only patient who had memories of his death. Almost 50% of the study participants could remember something. However, unlike the gentleman and another woman, whose account of being outside their own bodies cannot be objectively proven, the other patients' experiences did not seem to be related to the actual events that occurred at the time of their death. Their stories were more like dreams or hallucinations, which Dr. Sam and his colleagues divided into 7 main scenarios. Most of these scenarios corresponded to what used to be called a near-death experience, says Sam. It seems that the psychological experience of death is much broader than we imagined in the past. These 7 scenarios include fear, images of animals or plants, bright lights, violence or harassment, déjà vu, the feeling of seeing a face, family members, and memories of events after cardiac arrest. Patients' mental experiences range from creepy to blissful, although people certainly feel something at the time of death, notes Professor Sam Parnia. How they interpret these experiences depends on their life experiences and beliefs. Hindus could say that they had seen Krishna, and a resident of the Midwestern United States claimed to have seen God. If a person raised in Western society says that when he dies, he will see Jesus Christ, and he will be full of love and compassion, then of course he will see him, says the professor. All this talk about the soul, heaven and hell, I have no idea what they mean. There are probably thousands of interpretations, depending on where you were born and how you were raised, says the scientist. It is important to move these memories from the realm of religion to the plane of reality. So far, the team of scientists has not established what determines the ability of patients to remember their feelings at the time of death. There are also not enough explanations about why some people experience scary scenarios, while others talk about euphoria. Dr. Guy also notes that obviously, more people have memories of clinical death than statistics show. Most people lose these memories due to the large swelling of the brain caused by cardiac arrest, or due to the strong sedatives they receive in intensive care. Even if people cannot remember their thoughts and feelings at the time of death, this experience undoubtedly affects them on a subconscious level. Scientists suggest that this explains the very opposite reaction of patients who have returned to life after cardiac arrest. Some are no longer afraid of death and are beginning to treat life more altruistically, while others develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, in contrast to the skeptics, let's listen to information from another source, where they will tell us about the path of the soul leaving its earthly body. When the soul, which seems to us to be something ghostly and weightless, leaves the body, decomposition processes immediately begin in it. At the moment of death, the soul leaves the body through a certain channel, a tunnel, which is described by people who have experienced clinical death. It is nothing but a channel in our body. There are 9 main openings in the body: in the ears, eyes, mouth, nostrils, genitals, and rectum. In addition to these holes, there are others, namely the navel and the so-called fontanelle, a fossa in the newborn's skull that can be easily felt. According to the esoteric teaching about the world, the soul can exit through these channels after death. People who are initiated into this knowledge can determine which sphere of being the soul has gone to. If the soul has left the body through the mouth, it will return to earth. If through the left nostril, it will go to the sphere of the moon. If through the right nostril, it will be transferred to the sphere of the sun. If the soul exits through the navel, it will end up in a planetary system located below the earth. If you go through the genitals, you will enter a gloomy underground kingdom. For 40 days after the soul has left the body, it remains in the place where the person lived. During this period, the soul resides in a subtle mental body that retains the habits and desires of a living being, but cannot realize them. When the soul that has left the body looks in the mirror, it does not see itself and experiences deep despair. Therefore, it is customary to close the mirrors in the house of the deceased on the first day after death. In the first days after death, the soul is in a state of confusion, not understanding how it will live without a body. Therefore, some peoples have a custom of burying the deceased immediately. As long as the body is not buried, the soul will always be close to it. After the burial of the body, the soul will see the process of its decomposition, and until the body decomposes, it will return to it from time to time. It is difficult because the soul is hard to part with the outer shell, with which it was related, and which was very dear to it. On the 3 to 4 day after death, the soul tries to calm down. She wanders around the neighborhood and usually returns to the deceased's house. Relatives during this period should not violently show despair and cry loudly, because the soul, hearing this, experiences severe torments. During this period, one should read the scriptures and tell the soul what to do next. The spirits can hear everything because they are with us. Death is a stage of transition to a new life. Death as such does not exist because we change clothes, and the soul eventually changes from one form of existence to another. What do you think about the afterlife? Where do you think we will end up after physical death? Write your opinion in the comments. If you want to learn more about life after death, then I recommend watching my other videos. Please don't forget to like this video if you liked it. See you soon.